Let's talk about characteristics in comparative agility. Now, characteristics is really the second level of data in comparative agility. The highest level of data is at the dimension level. That's the teamwork, it's planning, it's quality, and all these sort of big buckets. The lowest level of data are really the statements or the questions themselves. Then you have that mid level, and that's characteristics. It's sort of that next level of granularity that gives you a little bit more detail than dimensions, but not so much detail as you get in the statements themselves. It's sort of that mid level that can be really useful. Now, what we've done is we have compressed all the data and all the graphs and characteristics by default. Because if you click on this little plus sign, you'll see all that data at once, and it can be a little bit overwhelming, to be honest with you. So what we've done is we've compressed it by default, and then you can choose which of these you want to look at. And in this case, let's look at technical practices. Technical practices is a dimension. We know that it's 3.21 average. We can look at the spider graph above. Just look at that, and we can see that that matches. Okay, that's great. Now let's see what that actually means. What is it about technical practices that encompasses this average? Well, here you see the characteristics inside of technical practices. Unit test-driven development, pair programming, refactoring, continuous integration, and collective code ownership. These are classic practices inside of extreme programming or XP. This is pretty useful because now you get a little bit more detail around how this is looking. By default, we show all characteristics at once. If you don't want to do that, you can go into each detail and go into unit test-driven development specifically, or pair programming, or refactoring, whatever you prefer. But I actually prefer to look at all of it at once because I think it's pretty easy to see what's going on, and you get a pretty good perspective of where you might need to focus a little bit. What's also nice to introduce here is that not only do you see the data for your particular data set, you also see the data for the world index. So you can see how you compare to the world index in each of these characteristics. That can be a nice little reference point. Here, for instance, you know that the average is around 3.21, but inside of that, you can also see that there's certain things like, well, unit test-driven development or refactoring where we might be having a little bit more attention because you can see we're not doing quite as well there as we're doing for things like pair programming or collective code ownership, for instance. It's just another level of detail that we provide you. Characteristics is our latest addition, and I hope that you found this helpful.